Welcome to Access and Privacy Online. I'm Patrick Farnsworth. You're about to listen to a segment from our end-of-year discussion with FIPA researcher Spencer Izen. He discusses his insights into operational and administrative record keeping. Tune in to hear the full discussion in the coming weeks. Cheers.
And what we're trying to do, what I've been encouraged by as well in this, is the feedback we're getting from public bodies and practitioners in the field as we've done the research. Because as Schrodinger's cat reveals, right, once you begin observing, you affect the outcome. And in the process of doing this research, we know that public bodies have been changing what they're doing internally because we've asked for certain documents. And so that snapshot in time that we're creating with this also means that there's going to be changes after this. From the very act of making the request, we've impacted the organization. And that's been an important insight for me as executive director, and something that I think I'm looking forward to. And I really look forward to Spencer unpacking what's been revealed now.
Yeah, Spencer, what has been revealed from this? I mean, my take, can I just say, like, as a complete layman, isn't it weird to find that they're just like taking screenshots of things that, like, isn't it normal to think that there's formal documentation here, that there's some sort of standard, and then you realize that it's just not like that? And maybe that's revealing and it's good, but it just, to me, it makes me feel weird. So like, how do you, what does that reveal to you, at least as a researcher?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot recently about the appropriateness of that. I mean, my initial reaction was, yeah, oh my God, this is super weird. This is bizarre. I know it's taken me. I mean, I've had a lot of conversations with Jason about this, and we've spoken to a lot of folks in the record keeping community, largely in Vancouver Island, about record keeping in general. And I've come to a way of thinking about this as it's largely a result of being a manager of a newspaper now, and having to actually engage in the document creation that I'm studying for FIPA. And what's coming to mind is that in archivists divide record keeping based at the highest level, divide files and collections of files into operational or administrative categories. So operational categories is just respond to what the organization's mission is. Are they delivering some sort of service? All of the records related to that are operational. Administrative records are your financial HR type of records that are they're meta information. They keep the organization running. Essentially, those are administrative files. Freedom of information kind of sits in the middle of that dichotomy, of that dualism, because it's never organization's core service. We have no public body that exists to disclose records in a circular kind of loop. There's no public body that does that. And it's also it's not related to service delivery either. But it's a mandatory service that is common to every public institution. That's part of what makes administration what it is. It's common to every organization. Mm-hmm. So it sits in an uneasy area over there. And I think when we see smaller public bodies typically, but not always, having an absence of what we might call on the outside formalized records, it suggests that there's a lack of agreement about where freedom of information falls within that dualism, and whether it's a mission-oriented or non-mission-oriented value. I cannot for the life of me remember the political scientist who first, or the public administration scholar who made that distinction in relation to freedom of information many years ago. Perhaps we can put it in the show notes once I find it afterwards. But what it suggests to me, again, is that we don't have agreement about whether and how important freedom of information is, and internally, whether a public body is responsible for training someone to do freedom of information work. A policy analyst, for example, the analytical work that they undertake, I imagine, the training is either conducted on the job, but the substantive knowledge of the field is typically prerequisites. Similarly, if you're hiring a developer into a public body, you're not necessarily expecting on day one the public body is going to start teaching that person how to program. You might be teaching them some sort of logistical things or networking things about how to get onto the organization's systems, but you're not teaching them programming from the ground up. Freedom of information is a little bit different in that it's a quasi-administrative, quasi-operational service, but it's exclusive to government. There's no private organization. You can't file freedom of information requests in Canada to private organizations. And it's not in the same way that you can transfer it between government and the private sector in accounting. Sure, there's different rules, but the objectives of the work are the same. There's no equivalent to freedom of information in the private sector this way. So what I'm most interested going into this, and what I'm thinking about how the records actually instruct people to do their jobs. What scripts do they give people to respond to certain situations? If confronted with this, then what? For example, those kind of stories. what are the stories that we're prioritizing? What are the situations that where we want to train people to respond to because we expect them to encounter these the most, and which situations are we leaving unaccounted for? That's what I'm kind of most interested in. But I think it's weird and it's not weird. I think it's weird when you think of it like, from a perspective that's concerned with the rights associated with freedom of information. Yeah, it's a little bit odd. But if you take what I might call a more practical lens, hurts a little bit to say it, but if you think about it in cost and benefit in terms, these manuals are expensive. It takes a lot of time to write these kind of things. It takes a lot of knowledge. It takes a lot of time away from the actual delivery of services to be able to produce these things. I know that now, having to write manuals for journalism. So and having that experience was really insightful actually going into this. So I'm able to have a little bit more nuance when approaching the question of whether or not it's weird, because it depends. It depends how much time can the public body afford to send a senior FOI analyst if they're lucky enough to have a senior FOI analyst, not an FOI analyst, which is a step up from an admin assistant doing it off the side of their desk because they've got a billion other things to do. You've got a range of people who are involved in FOI work. So the OneNote screenshots, to return to that, they're likely from public bodies. I could have to go check. But my guess is they're from public bodies that don't have a full-time FOI person or FOI worker, whatever they're called. So yeah, it's strange, it's interesting, and I am looking forward to spending more time thinking about that, collapsing that dualism between administration and operational work in public bodies. I think it's a really interesting framing for FOI.
Access and Privacy Online reviews the headlines and delivers deeper commentary on a regular basis. Be sure to subscribe to get the full episodes every week and get notifications when we release show segments and other commentary throughout the week. We look forward to hearing from you soon. Have a good one.